So right before this video went live, last night, Square Enix released a ton of info on Remind and the 1.07 update coming. I added screenshots where I could, so I hope that's enough. The work week and the school week is starting for me, and all of my classes have just been incredibly hard right off the bat, so I wasn't able to get all that information into the video because this was already recorded and edited and ready to go. So hope you guys are okay with that. Really sorry, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Hey you guys, with Remind right around the corner, I wanted to do a video laying out all of the information we know about it. I'm joined by Damo to help me do this.
Hey there guys, how's it going? My name's Damo and I do a little bit of theory crafting about Kingdom Hearts, particularly about Union Cross. I'm really honoured to be invited by Bio here today to talk a lot about what we've learned from the Kingdom Hearts Remind DLC trailers. There is a lot here to unpack and a lot here to theorize on.
What I want to do is, rather than just talk about what is offered with the DLC, try to put together one huge video that summarizes all of the store page information, trailers, and interviews about the Remind DLC. This will probably be a pretty long video, and I hope it gets you excited for the new content. The first thing we'll look at is the general description from the store page. I'm sure you have all read this or seen it, so I won't stay too long on this. The store page outlines that we will be getting an additional story, Remind, a limit cut episode including 13 bosses, and a secret episode with a boss battle. There will also be a data greeting feature, a slideshow feature, as well as a premium menu. Some of this was shown off in an orchestra event. The data greeting feature may be the photo mode that let you set up characters and props in various areas to create your own pictures. You can then use those photos you made and put them into a slideshow feature with background music, transitions, and zooms. The premium menu can be accessed at any point, even during battle. This gives you access to Black Code and Fast Pass mode. Black Code will let you change the difficulty with things such as messing with how much health you have. During the presentation, Sora was not able to heal, but could use a Koopa coin. Black Code could be a reference to the mechanic from Recoded, where you could also change different mechanics to make it more difficult. Fast Pass mode lets you one-shot enemies and also showed at least 7 situation commands above the command menu. It should be noted that there were many different kinds of settings, but it went by so fast that no one could tell what the different options were in this premium menu. There's also some free DLC that will be released with the 1.07 update. This includes a main story update, adding extra cutscenes for more context in the main game, new abilities, the Oathkeeper and Oblivion Keyblades with new form changes, and expanded sharing features. There are in-game requirements that will allow you to get the new Keyblades, which is probably the proofs from finding all the lucky emblems and completing the game on Critical. I think there will also be some kind of story progression though that will unlock these Keyblades during normal play. Like how Starlight was available at the beginning if you got the code from Union Cross, or if you didn't use that, you could unlock it after defeating the Demon Tide in the Keyblade Graveyard. I just can't imagine that the proofs are the only way to get these Keyblades, since not a lot of people have the time to find all the lucky emblems or complete the game on Critical. The last thing on the store page was the description of this DLC. Remind, the other tale that unfolded during the climax of Kingdom Hearts 3. Determined to rescue Kairi, Sora travels to the Keyblade Graveyard a short time before the final battle takes place. Lacking a corporeal form, he traces the hearts of the 7 Guardians of Light. Through experiencing their personal battles firsthand, Sora is about to discover truths that he has never before imagined. A lot of this is seen in the last Remind trailer actually. Now let's look at some of the interviews that talked about Remind or the DLC. Thank you to Cage Insider for translating and providing these. I'll leave a link down below to their Twitter and site.
During some interviews after the initial release, Nomura mentioned that he plans to explain exactly how Xion came back and how she ended up in the new organization. He did note, however, that it is possible to figure all of this out without the DLC. During another interview, Nomura actually confirmed that they were working on battle elements he wanted in the game. While we didn't know it at that point, this probably refers to either the extra abilities being added or the extra battles. In a screenshot taken from a Famitsu article, we can see Sora using a different kind of magic flash. He also confirmed that we will get Final Mix type tough enemies with the Remind DLC. During an interview after the Remind DLC was announced, Nomura revealed that he chose the name Remind because he would get notifications from his PR staff that said Reminder. It meant reconfirm. Nomura went on to say that it also meant to reclaim the heart, a subtle nod to the Verum Rex phrase on the back of the game box. The mark between the Remind words is a coda. Nomura often uses RE in the Kingdom Hearts franchise and wanted to have something more meaningful for the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC. He thought that the musical symbols Vita and coda were appropriate. Vita is a skipped part of a musical piece, and coda is an ending that is different from the main piece. We now know that Remind is going to cover the missing part that was skipped between the ending of Kingdom Hearts 3 and its final cutscene, but will also fill out other areas of the ending. It's also confirmed in this interview that the playable sections are in the Remind DLC rather than the limit cut. There will be stages in the additional scenario where you can select which character to use. For example, in the Aqua and Ventus fight, you'll probably be able to choose which character you want to use, either Aqua or Ven. The scenes between Xigbar and Luxord, as well as the Master of Masters and young Xehanort, are confirmed to be in the Remind, and there is going to be a lot of cutscenes. Bio wonders if Chirithy will be used to fill in the gaps between the cutscenes, or if it will just jump from one cutscene to the next. As in, will you be able to see these cutscenes during a fresh playthrough, or do you have the option to watch all the brand new ones in one big hit? The Luxord and Xigbar scene is going to take place at the beginning of the DLC, and takes place in Olympus. Bio feels like it would be very disorienting to jump from one cutscene at the beginning of the base game to a cutscene at the end, so it may be nice to have some narration to guide us along. The last bits of information revealed that Demyx would be appearing, and that the number of limit car bosses was aiming to be similar as the number of bosses in Kingdom Hearts Final Mix 2. Alongside the bosses in the Remind DLC and the Limit Cut episode, there will also be a secret boss in the secret episode. Now we're going to walk through the 3 Remind trailers. We'll try to go through as quickly as possible so as not to waste your time or have an incredibly long video. So let's get right to the first one.
The first trailer opens with a conversation between the Master of Masters and young Xehanort. Most of the cutscenes in this trailer are from the Remind scenario, excluding the Light form change and the Oathkeeper Keyblade. This is before young Xehanort is possessed by darkness since his eyes are not yellow. The Master of Masters calls his trek a world tour, and young Xehanort writes in his journal that he was going through the worlds from the Age of Fairy Tales. The next trailer adds more context to this conversation, with the Master of Masters telling young Xehanort that letting the false light dictate the future can be pretty lousy. This is probably what cements young Xehanort into his role to rebalance the world. The next few scenes show playable characters in the Keyblade graveyard. These are Riku, Aqua, and Roxas. Though Roxas' combat looks to be just a camera placed behind the AI rather than actual combat. We see in this Famitsu article that Roxas is pulling off a different kind of attack. It looks really similar to this attack from the Axel and Roxas fight in Kingdom Hearts 2. He also has access to a reversal command, which we actually see him use during the Syx boss fight in the base game. Riku's scene shows him building up a situation command, and in another Famitsu picture, we see that Riku has a focus gauge. We have no information on what the shotlock or situation command could be at this point. As mentioned before, the interview with Nomura makes it seem like you'll be able to choose which character you want to play as. Oathkeeper and Lightform were shown off next. These are going to be included in the free update alongside Oblivion and Darkform. Darkform is shown later to have a second level to its form change. We have not been given a scene with Lightform that shows a HUD, so we currently don't know if Lightform will have a second level as well. Some of the attacks actually mirror Riku's combat though. While we do know that Lightform and Oathkeeper are not part of the Remind scenario, we don't know if this battle is taking place in the Remind scenario or the Limit Cut episode. It could even be just the end of the base game. Anyways, the last scene in this trailer shows a conversation between Xigbar and Luxord. This is one of the opening scenes of the Remind scenario. It is probably right after Xigbar's May Your Heart Be Your Guiding Key scene. Luxord seems to know much more than he should, but decides to keep playing dumb. And that is it for the first trailer. Let's look at the next one.
Right off the bat, this trailer opens with a scene from the Keyblade Graveyard. This scene is probably after Sora dies and returns to the Keyblade Graveyard, since Chirithy is talking about how the heart that Sora has now has already gone back to the past. This conversation seems to be one that Sora and Chirithy are having together in the final world, and is one that we will actually see footage of a bit later. This is most likely after Sora uses the power of waking to chase after Kairi, after the conclusion of his fight with Xehanort. After all, if I had recently learned that a person with unfinished business goes to the final world when they perish, I would head straight there too. I doubt it's going to be that easy to bring her back though. The next scene shows Lee calling his chakrams in front of Xemnas and Syx. It then switches and shows Lee throwing them before a hooded Xion deflects them. Lee and Kairi notice that it's a Keyblade that looks just like Sora's. It cuts as Lee asks who they are. The next scene shows Lee changing his Keyblades into his chakrams. We didn't actually see Lee form change his Keyblade into chakrams until this trailer. In the base game, Lee would just call forth rings of fire to attack rather than use his chakrams. In any case, Lee throws them forward and we see them spin around Syx. There is a cut here, so it could be a different attack though. This whole sequence seems to be a team attack. While we are playing as Lee, we will probably be able to trigger Roxas and Xion to attack with one button and throw our chakrams with the other, or perhaps the team attack is something that you build up with situation commands. There would also be a finish command which would trigger the cinematic attack where Roxas and Xion run at Syx from both sides. They slash at him before Lee jumps down and slams his chakrams into the ground, causing a huge explosion. This attack from Lee is reminiscent of this attack from Kingdom Hearts 2. After the attack, we can see him jump out of the fire and toss his chakrams around a bit. This actually looks like an idle animation, so I wonder if we'll be able to play as Lee with his chakrams, or if we will be able to build up a form change where we use Lee's chakrams to attack. Though Sora is present for this fight in Kingdom Hearts 3, it seems he's not present here. Seeing as this is moments after Kairi was taken by Xemnas, I imagine that if this is indeed a separate timeline from the original game, Sora will either leave this fight to get Kairi back immediately, letting Roxas, Xion and Axel take care of Syx after Roxas has been released from Sora and Xion has changed sides, or perhaps Sora will never let Kairi get taken at all. The next scene shows Sora and Chirithy talking together. I believe this continues the conversation that was shown during the opening of the trailer. Sora believes that Kari's heart has not been lost just yet, and hopes that she is still with them. Sora may figure out that if he can't find her in the final world, perhaps she is still alive in some way. When Kari appears in the final trailer, she is fully formed and not a blue outline of herself, so I suppose Sora could have recompleted her and brought her back. Sora was previously able to save his friends by diving down into the abyss. Chirithy seems to think that this situation may be far more difficult though. Kari may be further down, deep in the abyss, maybe she's all the way at the bottom, if there is a bottom. My personal thought is that rather than retrieving Kari from wherever she ended up, Sora will end up going back in time as he has previously demonstrated the ability to do, and prevent her from dying in the first place.
Next up, we get a look at the Oblivion Keyblade in a new form change. This is called Dark Form and changes Sora's clothes to different shades of black. Again, this is part of the free DLC and is not connected with the Remind scenario or the Limit Cut episode. There's no finish command around the form change gauge, which may mean that this is the first of 2 levels to this form change. Anyways, enough about Dark Form. This fight seems to be a new and improved version of the Vanitas Sentiment fight from Birth by Sleep. We can see a shell protecting Vanitas during his ultimate attack. Vanitas has full health though, so maybe this isn't his ultimate attack, but rather his opening one. 2 Vanitas shadows fly out and ride on a wave of Keyblades before those smash into the ground, shooting darkness upwards. As the Keyblades smash into the ground, the 2 shadows fly back before dashing towards Sora and slashing at him. Sora guards against this with a barrier. This barrier has 2 sets of chains crossing around the shield. The attack option changes to a reprisal attack called Dark Burst. The chains may come from the chain in the middle of the Oblivion Keyblade, or it could represent Sora's bonds. The last part of this scene shows one more shadow flying out to attack Sora. The next scene shows Sora and Xigbar slowly walking towards each other. Sora can be seen in his light form with Oathkeeper in hand. The scene cuts to a different angle as they move closer before it cuts again to show Xigbar crouching and shooting out a shot at Sora. The command menu has one option called Quick Shot. Sora jumps out of the way and gets an excellent rating. There will probably be either a direction we need to move in or a button we need to press to trigger this. Sora dodges another shot, but it doesn't look like we need to hit anything to dodge this. Sora's Keyblade glows as he shoots out 3 quick shots at Xigbar. This does decent damage and Xigbar goes into a stunned animation with both guns spinning behind him as he bends forward. The next scene shows Aqua telling Terranort that the only thing she wants with all her heart is to cast Xehanort out of Terra. This also seems to be right before the battle starts since she gets into her battle stance and the camera starts to move to position behind her. The next scene shows Aqua and Ven's team attack. Ven flies around on his Keyblade during this, which could be a hint that we'll be able to use his Sky Climber command style. The next scene shows the Master Masters talking to young Xehanort. We covered this previously, but the Master Masters is saying that the false light dictating the future can be lousy. I think he's talking about Lux. Somehow Xehanort holds the power to change that. The scene ends with the Master asking Xehanort what he wants for the world. The next scene shows Sora and Naminé talking. Sora states that it would be bad news for Terra if either of them get hurt. There's speculation about if this is talking about Aqua and Ven, or Terra in his possessed body. Sora orders Naminé to go to the final world, and Naminé asks about him. This could be right when Sora dives to his heart to trace the connections. This is a quick side note, but I would love to see the stations of all of Sora's friends floating around his own station. Then you could choose which ones to visit first. I think that would be such a cool hub world for the Remind scenario. I want to say that after talking to Naminé, Sora would probably jump into the air and connect with Riku's station, which we see in the most recent Remind trailer. The last scene shows the Lingering Well facing off against Terranort. This is probably after the Lingering Well saves the Guardians of Light from Terranort. We never did get to see what happened after they flew away. We get a close-up of the Lingering Well, and it's a little odd that he is using his Earthshaker Keyblade rather than his Ends of the Earth Keyblade, which we saw when he appeared to save the Guardians of Light. They were facing off before they dashed towards each other. In the background of this scene, we can see the spires that Xehanort was using to talk with the members of his new organization. It's pretty likely that the Lingering Well is defeated in this fight, since Terranort appears later on in the Keyblade Graveyard fighting Ven and Aqua, but it'll be interesting to see the actual battle between these two. Maybe the Lingering Well sparks something inside Terranort, and that is how Terra fought and gained his body back. It's also very possible that this whole scene is actually taking place inside of Terra's station, since the Lingering Well does have a different Keyblade. Maybe this is the inner battle that is going on inside his heart. And that is it for this trailer. Let's look at the last one.
The first scene opens with a shot of the castle in Radiant Garden. It seems Riku has come to speak with Aerith, Leon and Yuffie about Sora's whereabouts. They still remember him, so it seems like he hasn't been obliterated from their memories like he was at the end of Chain of Memories, but Riku isn't sure where else to look for him. Hopefully the Final Fantasy cast, or perhaps Merlin, will have some good ideas for our heroes. Does that sort of imply that when you die in the Kingdom Hearts universe, everyone just sort of forgets about you? Anyway, the next scene shows Ven's station being overtaken by darkness, before that darkness then swirls around Sora. It seems as Sora traces the connections between hearts, he will have to encounter the darkness within each of his friends. Perhaps in Ven's case he will have to encounter Vanitas. Perhaps this is how we will learn of what happened in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. And by going through Ven's memories, perhaps this is what will allow him to remember his Chirithy. When Sora opens his eyes, he's in front of a Dark Inferno. In the Compendium for Heartless and Enemies, we see the Dark Infernos are actually a species of Heartless, so there are multiple ones. This one has a yellow color to it, rather than the red hint that the initial Dark Inferno has. Bio strongly feels that these Dark Infernos are linked to the Foretellers, or perhaps the Union leaders, but there isn't too much evidence to go on for that for now. I like the theory a lot, but I kinda think they could just be cool Heartless. Anyways, the next scene shows Aqua in the Keyblade graveyard as she looks up at a swarm of Dark Aquas. This symbolizes the fear and despair Aqua feels, and there's a lot to explain why she just sort of stopped fighting during this section of the base Kingdom Hearts 3. She's essentially suffering from PTSD, having been trapped in the realm of darkness for over a decade, haunted by a phantom of herself that only tried to drag her deeper, before finally being corrupted by the darkness itself. Aqua has been through a lot, and with only a couple of days to recover before fighting in the freaking Keyblade War, it's safe to say that she may not have been ready just yet. Sora is glowing with a white aura, showing that he must have gotten here after diving to Aqua's heart and confronting her darkness. Perhaps he will help find the light inside her and give her the strength to fight on without him later. The next scene shows Terranaut and Sora fighting. I want to say that this is Terra's darkness inside of his station, but we really don't have any context or evidence for that just yet. Terranaut says, "Seeing as you have also taken the Forbidden Path, you too must be ready to make the ultimate sacrifice." Who else has taken the Forbidden Path? Maybe Xehanort? I think this is tied into Xehanort in these various forms having an almost complete knowledge of the future. I feel like they must have also used the power of waking, as Sora has done, to rewrite history, as, in just one example, Terranaut is explicitly aware that not only is he about to kill all of the Guardians of Light when they first encounter him in the Keyblade graveyard, but that they will rewrite time itself to ensure the Keyblade War still happens. And young Xehanort knows that even though he has lost, the victory will cost Sora his existence in this world. Is the ultimate sacrifice to cease existing? Since we do see Sora disappearing at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. Or is there some other price to pay? Is this the prize that Xigbar told Sora he would receive at the end of his journey? The next scene shows the Guardians of Light versus the Seekers of Darkness, silhouetted against the corrupted Kingdom Hearts. I believe this scene happens as the Guardians of Light hold off the destructive effects of Kingdom Hearts, while Sora, Donald and Goofy are fighting Master Xehanort in Scala ad Caem. Perhaps this explains why the 13 Xehanort forms slip in and out of reality while Sora fights them, because they are literally teleporting to this fight and back. We see keyholes flying around in the background, which was an effect of the Keyblade as seen in Birth by Sleep and again in Kingdom Hearts 3. We don't see a health bar on the HUD, and it looks like we will be switching between all of the protagonists during the fight. We have an attack option and an aerial dodge option. We see some combat from Riku, Xion, Roxas, and Ventus. Riku's combat is similar to his air combo when you were controlling him. When it switches to Xion, we see a reaction command called Twisting Counter available. This may happen after a successful aerial dodge, or maybe a recovery when you are hit. Ven's special situation command is called Storm Rider. We see him cast air around himself before it switches to Roxas. He uses Miracle Hour, which shows 8 beams of light circling around him before he pushes them outwards. This in particular does insane damage compared to the damage that was being done by the previous attacks. Perhaps it's able to hit multiple foes. We then see all of the Guardians of Light back to back as the Seekers surround them. Attacking shows all of the different characters targeting the enemy in front of them. The command menu has switched out aerial dodge with Reflegger. During the attacks, we see one of the Seekers have a red aura covering them before he flips and attacks. This is probably the tell you will look for to use the Reflect command. After the successful guard, a situation error appears. I assume it will have some form of HP, since otherwise there wouldn't really be a need to block attacks. I get the feeling this fight will play out a lot like the ending Ven vs Vanitas fight from Birth by Sleep, where you don't have your full range of movement and a limited amount of commands, but hopefully there is a more fleshed out fight that culminates here. The next scene shows Luxord asking Xigbar about the black box. Specifically, why is it only now that the box is so important? A good question. Why haven't they been searching for it for the past few years? Why is it that only Luxord spends all of Kingdom Hearts 3 searching for it when none of the other organization members even seem to care about it? Larxene in particular practically laughs at the concept. This is likely a continuation of the scene we saw in the first trailer, and I imagine it takes place immediately after the scene in Sora's trip through Olympus, where we very briefly see Xigbar. Luxord resolves to keep playing dumb for the time being, and Xigbar is forced to wonder aloud about who Luxord actually is. Very curious, as Xigbar's true identity is that of someone who has watched all the events in the Kingdom Hearts series from afar. It's strange that Luxord would be an enigma to even him. The next scene shows a conversation between Riku and Demyx. This seems to be after the defeat of the Riku replica by Sora and Riku, since the empty replica body is laying there on the ground. Demyx seems to have come to collect the replica, presumably to take it back to Zexion and use it as a vessel for Naminé. Demyx's line though, that he thought Riku would be gone by now, is super interesting to me. If Riku and Sora were destined to win the fight against the Riku replica and Xigbar together, but in this timeline, Riku was forced to fight it alone, then it probably would take him longer. If Demyx somehow knew exactly when to collect the replica at the right moment so that nobody, friend or foe, would see him do it, then it is clear that the intended timeline has been meddled with, and things are occurring differently this time, outside of what even those with foresight are able to see. It's possible that Riku and Demyx could fight here, since Riku doesn't know that Demyx is on their side, which could lead to another cool data organization fight. If that were to happen, I wonder how the fight would play out in the Kingdom Hearts 3 engine, seeing as the Kingdom Hearts 2 fight relied so heavily on reaction commands.
Next up, we get to see more combat and what the command menu looks like for these data battles. This is not in the Remind scenario, but is part of the Limit Cut episode. The first data battle is against Terranort. The Guardian smashes the ground, causing spikes to shoot up. This was actually used by him in the base game, though the Guardian slams around Terranort rather than locking onto Sora. The next fight is against Xemnas during what seems to be his DM. When hit by one of the last attacks, it seems like Sora gets a status effect with Thorn circling around him. The status effect locks you out of your command menu. In the JP trailer, you actually get access to your command menu pretty quickly after it locks out. The next fight is against Dark Riku. It looks like Riku was able to guard and punish Sora's attack, which is really interesting. As Sora flies away from the counterattack, Riku appears above him and does a Dark Break-esque attack. Ansem Secret Darkness is up next, and there's an attack that is reminiscent to his fight from Dream Drop Distance. Two Orbs of Darkness shoot out projectiles that Sora dodges. Larxene is next and seems to be doing her ultimate attack from the Keyblade Graveyard, though the screen is not darkened here. Instead of dashing around multiple times before attacking, Larxene shoots around twice before following up with another attack. We then see Xemnas' Laser Dome attack, which looks fantastic. We've never seen this attack in an actual battle where we could control what we did. It is either seen in cutscenes or relegated to a reaction command. So I'm really excited to actually experience this attack for the first time. After all of that combat, the trailer switches back to some story scenes. The first scene shows Sora jumping up and using the power of waking on Riku's station. Sora talks about following his heart and tracing the connection. We've touched on this already, but this is showing how Sora will trace a connection to Kairi. The next scene shows Kairi and Sora appearing in the final world, and she admires how pretty it is before it switches to showing a playable Kairi section. Sora is her party member during this, and we see a dark purplish magic circle making up the battleground. The first attack appears to be a counterattack for a barrier. Powerful Fruit charms push out from this. The next attack is a Strike Raid-esque attack that ends with Kairi teleporting and slashing to end the attack. She starts to follow up this attack before it cuts to show her shotlock. We know this is her shotlock since her focus gauge is being used. In the very first frame, we can almost see the name of the shotlock. The attack shows multiple orbs of light appearing around Kairi that rain down the surrounding area. They explode on contact as Kairi dives down and flies close to the ground. One thing I want to point out before we move on is Master Xehanort's Keyblades. The usual blue gazing eye is red. Speaking of eyes, the magic circle is filled with them. I wonder if these eyes, as well as the different colored gazing eyes, have something to do with the Master of Masters. Anyways, the next scene shows an explorable Skull-eyed Kylum. In the first frame, we see a reaction command called Examine. This shows Sora raising his Keyblade and changing the red orb into a blue one, which spawns a rail. Right before it cuts, we see that the wall is scalable. The next scene shows us more of Scala, and it looks huge. In the bottom corner is this red orb. It's not really clear what this is. It could be a unique item, or chest, or something that Sora can interact with to open a path. The next cutscene shows Roxas, Xion, and Lee getting ready to fight. A light shines from their chests, which may be signifying the light within them. This particular strike may be the clash between light and darkness that summons one of the 13 keys needed. Before we see what happens though, the scene cuts to Riku asking if Aqua is sure about traveling back to the Realm of Darkness. Aqua says she is, since she isn't alone this time. Maybe we'll get to explore the Realm of Darkness again with Aqua. The last scene we see sets us up for the secret movie. Chirithy warns Sora that he will vanish from this world and without his powers won't be able to return. He starts running forward toward the dark figure in a night version of the final world. As he runs, we hear the iconic phrase that kicked off this entire franchise. Yozora is revealed to be the dark figure and the Remind logo appears. I want to say that what Chirithy is saying here is actually during one of the opening cutscenes of Remind. Maybe in the second trailer when Sora and Chirithy are talking, Chirithy warns Sora that he will not be able to return if he dives too deep. Anyways, that is every single thing we know about the Remind DLC.
Again, thank you so much to Bio for letting me come on this video and read out some of his script. This guy does such incredible work, and I'm honestly baffled how he's able to get out so many high quality videos each week. If you're interested in hearing more theories or wondering what the heck a Union Cross is and want to be caught up, come on over to my channel and I'll explain it to you. Thanks again, Bio. I'll see you guys real soon for the DLC. All the best. Bye.
A huge thank you to Damo for coming on to help me share all this with you. I'll leave a link to his social media in the description, as well as pinned in a comment below. I really hope this got you excited for all the content that is coming with this DLC. See you guys in the next video.